What's up, everybody? Happy New Year. It's Joe Herrera coming to you live from fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. It's a balmy 42 degrees outside. A little bit windy today, Dave, in Vegas. It's like 40 miles per hour wind. Wind is the worst. I got my guy, Dave Humphries, joining me from Denver, Colorado. Dave, recap your 2024. Like, it was a big year for you. You came to Real in 24, 23. How long you been with
the beginning of 24. Yeah, so we started the process into 23,
okay.
But February 24. Yeah.
So you came to Real in 24. You partnered with Place in 24. Like, it was a big year of change for you. What's like? How would you recap? What are you going to tell your kids about 2024?
Shoot, hopefully not much. I mean, it was a challenging year. You know, it was a lot of transition, a lot of taking a couple steps back to take steps forward, and it was a very freeing year at the same time. Though I felt like it was a year of making some decisions that long term set Flourish up for significant impact, a lot of growth. We had some incredible partnerships come together in 24. And so if I was telling my kids one thing about 2024, I would say it was the year that I met and became partners with some of the most incredible people that hopefully for decades to come, we're changing the world together.
No, I love it. This concept we're going to talk about, we're going to take 10, 15 minutes and kind of walk through some of this. Like, I think moving into 2025, one of the questions people are asking themselves is, how on earth am I going to rebuild my business or take it to the next level? But I think the problem is, if we start with how without discussing the what's and the whys, we're just going to get ourselves into the same trouble or the same struggles that we dealt with in the past. And so for me, I talked to my team yesterday and I'm like, the how of success doesn't really matter until you've identified the what's and the whys. So Dave, let's talk about this a little bit. Like, I'm pretty gravitationally drawn to the principles of survival, the principles of thriving, the principles of wealth building. And I believe that these are different fuels. Like, I don't know, you and I probably haven't gotten too granular into our past, but like, I didn't grow up with really anything. Like, I didn't come from money. My dad's a good man. He was, I believe, kind of a paycheck to paycheck guy. And so when I got into real estate, I was living that paycheck to paycheck mentality, like commission check to commission check. I'd make $8,000. I would spend $7,999 and try to go make another $8,000. Like, I was just surviving. And I think survival fuel, I used to think, was the strongest fuel on earth, was the fuel that we use to survive, but in all ways, including financially. But I found that there's such better fuels, but it almost seems like a lot of our foundations for our financial lives start with just building survival. So for you, when you think about the fuel that is survival in somebody's financial life, how does somebody go from, I just need to make a check to like pay my bills, to like, okay, now I need to start making decisions on building a life that's thriving? How does somebody make those jumps?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is that, unfortunately, I think a lot of society doesn't have that ability, right? Like, if you're working a standard hourly job where you're not making more if you excel in your role, or if they sell more product or whatever, I mean, you're stuck. For us, working, in the industry we work in, we actually have the ability to create that future if we desire, right? And then now, you and I you're aligned with the same company where we actually have the ability to create significant, excess passive income in other ways. And so for me, like, it was a season most recently of sort of taking a step back from focusing heavily on wealth building to focusing more on what does it look like to thrive today, as transactions are cut down and agents within Flourish are not necessarily thriving in the way that I'd like them to. And so for us, I think we passed the survival mode, and then we sort of like graduated from thriving to be able to build wealth. And then for 2 years now, it's been like, oh, wait, we actually need to focus on how do we thrive today. And I think that was maybe like a backtracking for a couple of years.
And I think it's natural, right? Like 3 years ago, we lived in a, to borrow a phrase from Donnie Brasco, like a fugazi economy. Like, it just wasn't real. People could just go to the gym and be like, hey, you're good looking. What do you do? And I sell real estate. Oh my gosh, I need to sell my house. And like, magically, you would get a $24,000 commission, and You're like, dude, the freaking real estate's easy. This is crazy, right? And now 2024 was a year where some people had to, like, I view this as a progressionary thing. You learn to survive, you build into thriving, and then you ultimately get into wealth creation. And I wouldn't be surprised if most people took a step back where, like, I know for Taylor and I, if I had to place 2024 in a bucket, it would be in a thriving bucket. It was a great year for us. But I don't know that we amassed a ton of wealth in 2024. Moving into 2025, that's our focus. But I think there are people who were maybe even thriving in 2022 and kind of thriving in 2023 that almost reverted back to survival in 2024, which was like, dude, I'm not buying a lot of wants. I'm really focusing on taking care of my needs.
Yeah.
And so I think moving into 25, I would love to see us, you and I, and people who have a responsibility to lead, getting people from, if you're in survival mode, let's get you into thriving. If you're someone whose life is thriving, let's get you into wealth creation mode, because it's really hard to go from survival to wealth, but we for sure don't want to stagnate or take any steps backwards.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about the whats. So if our whys, if the fuel for our business is either survival, building of life of thriving, or building wealth, we have to talk about the vehicles and income streams we utilize. So you kind of hinted toward this, like, I'm pretty convinced that thriving in a single income stream is tough. I think surviving is doable. And I think for a period of time, you could have some thriving. But if somebody is just doing one thing, one income stream in the real estate space, if you're just doing production, I think thriving is hard. It's hard to get beyond survival as commission compression is hitting our industry, as people are dealing with, learning how to do BBRAs. And like, there's so much that people are having to go through that if we're just focused on the one stream of income, I'm curious what your thoughts are, but thriving, if it's just like, I need to go from doing 2 units a month to 3 units a month, then 4 units a month, then 5 units a month. It's like, dude, at some point you're going to hit a ceiling.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and it's also feast or famine, right? So there's going to be great months and there's going to be dead months. And the reality nationwide, regardless of what market you're in, is that we have an affordability crisis, first of all, where a lot fewer people are qualifying right now. And then we also have the reality is there's just fewer. I mean, there's fewer closings because more is falling out right now, right? So a lot of transactions come together and then they end up failing, and you can't deny the numbers there. And so the fact is, you need something more consistent and stable and steady, ideally something that's passive that is going to fill in gaps. In the meantime, for us, it was just surprising how close to a commission check that ended up looking like, right? So from my background, sharing profit as opposed to sharing revenue, it was nearly non-existent for several years. And so seeing revenue share come in numbers that eclipsed entire years, if not an entire decade of profit share, was shocking. This is real money, like a real ability to live on this revenue stream. And that was really surprising.
Yeah. I really advise people, like, if production is your home base, then let's make sure your home base is secure. But then I think the next logical explorative, like, let's conquer some new worlds, is either through agent attraction at a company like Real, LPT, EXP, wherever you want to go, like, get into a world where you're getting a share of revenue, or you get into the investment space. I wouldn't try to tackle both of those at the same time. I would go, all right, my production's pretty solid. Let me take a look at agent attraction, or let me take a look at some investment opportunities. And then it's almost like protect your home base, do some land-based exploration, and then, take it to the moon, right? It's like for Taylor and I, our team is our home base. We've crushed it on the agent attraction space. I mean, we're like 4,500 agents in our world. from a real world network standpoint. So then the next thing is for us, how do we take it to the moon? We really need to get our investment business crushing it. And then at that point, I'm not thinking about survival. And really, I'm not even thinking about a life of thriving. I'm fueled by wealth building. And that then makes my decisions for me. And so for agents, I think you need to make sure your vehicles are dialed in that I think you can survive and get by. If you're just in agent attraction, you could probably survive. If you're just running an investment business, you could probably survive and get into maybe even thriving. If you're just doing production, same thing. But the key for me is let's get multiple ways, multiple pay points, because to your point, you may have a great rev share month and a poor production month. And then you may have a poor rev share month and a great production month. But if you've got two of those, now we're getting into the position where it's not like, how do I pay my bills? It's like, all right, things are starting to cook a little bit. Now let's get into some wealth building activities. And so I think if your why is I want to get into thriving, then your what needs to be, you really need probably two vehicles. You need to be doing some production and you need to be attracting some agents, or you need to be doing some production and you need to be getting into the investment space. So Dave, for you, what are your big initiatives in 2025? I know your core business, your team is Flourish is a great team, that's doing a lot of business, but I know agent attraction has been an emphasis for you. Are you toying around with some investment stuff as well, or where are you at in 2025?
Yeah, so I took a Chicken Little approach for the last couple of years and got rid of most things. So our investment game took a big step back since about 22, 23, and held some things, but I'd like to begin to focus more on investment. But just as far as in general, like our game plan, I mean, we grow. Our agent attraction is primarily through partners. Almost everybody that I help discover the benefits of Real is actually somebody that comes in to Flourish as a partner. And our mission is to bring hope and healing and flourishing to every metro area that we operate in. And I would love to operate in every metro area. So I would love to see our agents, our partners have an impact in every city and every metro area in this country. And so I'm believing that 2025 is a year of lots of new partnerships, whether they're currently within the same brokerage we're at or not, that eventually we together are running thriving real estate businesses in their metro and in other metros. And as a result, we are bringing a lot of hope and a lot of healing to their city. So that's 2025 for us.
Well, let's talk about some tactics. So one thing we're doing on our team is we're getting out of third-party lead generation. Like the core of the Joe Taylor Group has always been self-sourced lead gen. We crush it on Facebook. So for us, we're just going back to our roots, as the great Dan Reynolds from Imagine Dragons saying. Like, we're just going back to just generating our own leads. We've tried Zillow. We've tried Ylopo. We've tried all of them. And like, we're just going back to, dude, let's just create our own leads. So from a tactical standpoint, so again, it's almost like a 1-3-5, right? But in a different way, we're saying, what is the fuel for you? What's your why? What's your vehicles? Your 1, your 3 vehicles. And now let's get into the 5s, which is your house. So for us, one of our tactics to improve our real estate production is take back over our lead generation. One of our tactics for building our network is Amy and I are going all in on rocket fuel. Every Monday, we're doing our webinar. We're making it a podcast. We're making it YouTube. We're going to be doing a big initiative, a 6-week initiative starting at the end of January, where it's all about agent attraction, whether it's agents at Real or a similar ecosystem or an independent broker running their team, whatever it is, we're going to be teaching agent attraction at a really high level. So that's one of our tactics for our agent attraction growth. And then from the investment space, Taylor and I are getting way deeper into flips. We want to acquire 20 properties for our transitional housing project we're doing. And so it's like, we've got to get tactical on our vehicles to get back to our whys. And so it's like, most people are like, well, how can I have a better business in 2025? I think that's the wrong question. I think the right question is, what's the fuel Am I trying to survive? Am I trying to thrive? Or am I trying to build wealth? And then it's like, okay, cool. If I know what my fuel is, what is my vehicle? Like I have here, Dave, my wife got me a mini Cybertruck for Christmas. Because I have a real Cybertruck. And so like my fuel, I know what my fuel is in this thing. Well, what's the fuel for my business? Well, if my business is production, agent attraction, investment, and my fuel is wealth creation, then I get into my tactics, which are awesome. How do I make sure my team, my agent attraction, and my wealth and my investment company is growing? So when you think about tactics, Dave, what are some of the things you're doing to get your team going, to get your agent attraction stuff going? Like, what are some of the granular things? Are you running webinars? Are you doing more team meetings? Are you touring housing projects together? Like, what are some of the things you're working on from a tactical standpoint?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a couple initiatives that we're pushing hard going into Q1 here, but our roots. You talked about what you built your business on. I mean, our roots were very much FSBO, Open House, and Sphere. Those were kind of the three things that built this business. And so we have put a lot more emphasis on Open House recently, and that will be a big focus of ours this year. I mean, we're a little bit, our market's slightly different than yours in that there are, seasonalities of based on weather. And so there are times when open houses crush and there are times when open houses are, a little dead. So we're coming back into open house season pretty soon here. We intend to set the world record for the longest open house in 2025. And so as a group, we are going to hold a 72-hour open house. And as a result of that, we're going to raise a lot of money and a lot of awareness for our nonprofit Flourish Alliance. And we're going to find a lot of clients. And then we do a lot of work around, we're spread all around a metro area and then in several other metro areas. And so we do we're a very listing heavy team. And so anytime we're taking a listing, we're doing everything we can to turn that listing into more business. So I don't know if you'd call that farming or if you would just call that like properly working a listing, servicing your listing. Find clients from it. So, and then we do a lot of Sphere marketing events and giveaways and all that kind of stuff to continue to nurture our Sphere and pull business out of our Sphere. So as far as the agent attraction piece, in the past, a lot of the attraction that I did was based on education. And so we'll continue teaching a lot of classes to bridge those gaps. But the biggest step we'll take is the partnership step of, we've spent several years building a platform and a value proposition and a great staff and a great, compelling vision and all the tech that we need to scale. And we're at a place now where adding partners it's just fun and easy. And so it's going to be a season of finding great, like-minded, impact-driven, productive partners and growing through vision. So that's the biggest piece of our agent attraction plan for 2025 is partnerships within. And there's lots of friends and mastermind colleagues that have come and that have helped in the attraction that we have helped into real recently that are not a part of Flourish. And that's okay too. Those typically come more naturally and more organically, but a lot of our growth will be through partners.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful for you, my guy. I love bouncing stuff off of you. You're always thinking outside the box. I think you lead with your heart, which is awesome. Guys, we all just have to make sure that for those of us who do try to lead that way, we just got to make sure that like our heart doesn't run out of beats, right? And like it's so challenging in today's economy to make sure that we're not running fugazi businesses. Like Taylor and I in our operations meeting this morning is I'm like, sometimes I feel like we're running like Barbie house businesses where we're just like pretending. And it's like 2024 was a wake up call for a lot of us where we thought 24 was going to be a massive wealth building year for us. We still thrived. Like, dude, it was great. Don't get me wrong. Like we're doing good, but I'm like, we're cutting some loose ends. We're firing people. We're like cutting off advertising mechanisms that aren't working. Like we're just getting gangster because I want to get back. I want to take a step back toward, if I go back to these three, I want to take a step back toward building wealth. And I felt like we took a step backward toward thriving in 2024. So guys, Whatever you want to do, if you want to go from survival to thriving, if you want to go from thriving to building wealth, it's not going to happen accidentally. And if you just start with the how, you're going to struggle. Get with a guy like Dave, hit me up. Like, let's talk about what your business looks like, because we may be able to tell you, like, dude, you don't have to recreate the wheel. We've already perfected that one thing you're looking to do. And Dave, I think that's the power of collaboration. It's the greatest fuel for our business, is just that Taylor and I don't have to make decisions in the closet. We come to you and be like, hey man, what are you doing on this? And you're like, oh, well, here's what I'm doing. And we're like, oh gosh, like, I'm going to try that. Right. And so I think if you're trying to go from surviving to thriving without collaboration, you're going to make a ton of mistakes. And so my hair is much grayer than Dave's, but I've got some long hairs in the real estate space. We've tried a lot of things. So Dave, as we end, like, what's a good way for people to reach out to you? Are you an Instagram guy? How do people hit you up if they're like, I like what that Dave guy's got to say?
Yeah, I mean, they can DM me on Instagram or Facebook or any of those, TikTok, or you can just email me at dave@poweredbyflourish.com.
Love it. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Hopefully this helps. We're always available. Hit us up. We're ready to help you. Let's move forward. Let's go from surviving to thriving and ultimately into wealth building. And we're here for it every step of the way. Thanks, guys. I hope you're finding value in the content you've been consuming. And my goal is to earn your subscription. So subscribe down below so that you get notified when we drop new content every single week.